Margaret Neuhaus.
Thank you, Janet Schreibstein. You've been amazing in setting this up and helping us with every step of the way. I appreciate that, making this possible, as well as the tech team and this Howard University. So thank you all the people who were involved in helping us bring our work together here. What I'm going to do is tell you a little bit about my background, and then try to answer the question of how has the Holocaust, being children of Holocaust survivors, influenced my work, and then tell you about 3 series that I've done that reflect that, and then I'm going to go briefly over other works that I have to give you an idea of my work. But however, I mean, we've heard a lot, we've seen a lot, and it's hard to take all of this in. As I'm wondering whether I could take a minute here, whether you'd like to stand up and stretch for a few minutes and let go of some of this and start again. Right? I mean, thank you for being such a good audience, but I think we need a little break here, right? Right? All right. So, yes. So I'll just start. You can keep stretching while I start telling you about my history. Both of my parents were Polish Jews. They were. They left Poland in 1943, and the great majority of the families died. My father was one of 4 children. One sister was alive, and one cousin at the end of the war. My mother was a child of one of 4 children as well, and what was left is a brother and his wife and an uncle and a cousin. You don't need to know a lot more about my history to know what impact that might be. So they took they left on a boat in 1943. It's one of these boats that went to different countries, and they wouldn't accept the refugees, except for when they ended up in Mexico. Mexico thankfully did. So my parents settled in Mexico City, and where my sister and I were born. So you can imagine the sense, the backdrop of this family, where there were no relatives, where it's a new language, no friends, a totally different background than my parents knew. So that I would be affected by that, and my sister would be affected by that. There's no question. Thankfully, over the years, we've enriched our lives with friends, our own children, family, our own work, activities, but that it had an impact. It had an impact, and I will show you some of that. I started working in wood and stone primarily, and then I went to paper, did Japanese ink to begin with, and then watercolors and acrylics. So in my studio, there were some papers that I had worked on, not a lot, but some. And then one day I went to the studio and I started just playing with one of the pieces of paper that I had worked on before. And for some reason, there was a lot of energy behind it. So I started just painting. I didn't know I was painting. Like Miriam said, sometimes one gets to understand after you do a lot of it. So I kept doing these paintings, and after doing some of them, they started to take shape. And they started to look somewhat like this. There's a lot of color. These are Jewish stars. There was a sense to me that I was working on the Holocaust, the burning, the facing, the Yud is the word there. The graffiti, for me, it was like destroying what was there before. Actually, I was working on work that I had done, so I felt what it was like to be defacing something that was there before. Again, the word is Jude, and I would imagine, houses being painted, destroyed, as well as people, of course. So I kept doing this, and I was amazed at what was coming out. And for me, again, used those two lines, the black lines, was paper that I had used before, and I added a figure. And for me, that was the camps. The burning, the violence, the killing. And this was my family tree. As I told you, didn't have many people left alive, so I didn't know them. The ones that are little circles and stuff are people that I found out their names, but all the names, all the rest are people who died. I had no idea who they were. The series started to become something else, although it's still... This series, by the way, is called In Memoriam, to honor the people who died in the Holocaust, including my family. So this part of the memoriam was they started to do red and black and tear it and put it together. By the time I got here to this red and black, there was a sense, this piece is in the gallery, there was a sense of putting back together the pieces. So I went through a lot of the images that I had, and this is, talking a few years. And to get to, it was a certain sense of reconciliation. But I want to tell you that when I would do, this is a bigger one, which is out there. The big ones I didn't get to, but initially I would take the pieces of paper and I put them in my flat files. I would kind of hide them. Like Coos said that he didn't show much of his work. I haven't, in a way. It's hard for me. And I put them in a drawer because I don't know whether I was ashamed of it, I was embarrassed, I did not understand it. But I started to understand it when I realized that what I was painting were the feelings of my parents, the unspeakable feelings of my parents. People who are severely traumatized, as my parents were, don't speak about their experiences. And some people do. Some people do speak about them, but my parents did not. And so I felt this is something that you needed to kind of guard and hide initially. And even now for this exhibition, I was trying to figure out who do I announce this to? Who do I tell about this? Because still there is leftover of that, trying to hide. So anyway, I realized I was painting my parents' unspeakable feelings, and which also clearly, because they were in me, they were mine as well, right? And so one day my husband, who's also a child of Holocaust survivors, however, his parents are German Jews who fled to Brazil, and he got a call from the teacher in the school where his mother went, in Esslingen, Germany, which is a suburb of Stuttgart. And the teacher wanted information about the family who fled. I believe they fled before the war ended. They fled when they heard that the children could not attend school anymore. So my husband's grandfather got the family out. But that teacher wanted to, have you heard of Stolpersteine, the little memorial plaques that the Germans have been putting in where the houses used to be of the people who were killed or fled. And he wanted to put some Stolpersteine in front of the houses of my husband's grandparents, and he wanted to put two more for because all the Stolpersteine have names and of the people who live there, and they have the destination, Auschwitz, or any of the other camps, or Brazil, which is what happened with my husband's family. So he wanted to put a plaque for his mother in the school and his uncle, who went to the same school before they had left. And he wanted information because he wanted the kids to do a PowerPoint presentation. And he invited us to go. Well, when he invited us to be present and he was going to be doing all of this, then I thought, well, okay, maybe I can take my work out of the drawer. And I asked the man, Mr. Kunle, who is an amazing guy, whether he could maybe put the work out in the school. And he got a gallery. This is in Esslingen, Germany. And I was showing the work to some of the students from the school in this gallery. And that's how my work got out of the drawer. And after this, after being in Germany, my work started to change. I think I had done enough over the years that the red and black and the darkness started to become yellow and orange. So that first series was called In Memoriam. This series is called Leitmotifs. So not only did the colors change and became lighter, but I did mobiles, I changed the paper so it felt to me like it was the light that came after dealing with the darkness. So my mother was from Krakow, and she said that the last place she saw her parents was in Krakow. So I wanted to take these two series to Krakow as a memorial to my family and to the people who died in the Holocaust. So we went. I took these two series, and there's a Jewish festival that happens every year in the summer, and they asked me if I would have them for that festival. After that came another. So those are the two series that are related directly to the child of Holocaust survivors, and this is a third. This series came after that, and it's called Outcry. It's Outcry. It was 2016, the elections in the States, and there was a lot of discrimination of minorities, women, and refugees, a lot of refugees. So I had a lot of feelings about that. This is canvas, unprimed, and the size of it is 5 feet high by 18 feet long, which is a little over 3 times my height. Because I had so many feelings, and I did several of these. So this is called Outcry. That's another one. And so these are related directly to this theme. But I want to show you others so you get an idea of what else I've done. Lines, as you might have noticed, have repeated themselves throughout my work. And I've done it at different times. This one is the last series I've done, which is called Off Silence, because I didn't want to deal with heavy duty feelings anymore for a while, at least, and so I wanted to just paint what was the moment for me. So this is why it's called Off Silence. This is on prime canvas as well, and gesso. I just let the gesso drip. I wanted to see the effect. And I started with wood. I started in a yurt in Glen Echo. And so I started to collect the twigs and tie them together in little pieces like that. And then this was in a festival, art. This was in Glen Echo too. It was an installation in Glen Echo. I started to carve wood. This is cedar. I love the smell of cedar when you're carving it. This was at the Art Museum of the Americas. The director there saw that first slide of the little twigs and liked my work, so she asked me if I would do a sculpture for the garden of the museum, and to do something that fills the space. I had to get a chainsaw and cut all these pieces with a lot of care. I'm pretty frightened. Anyway, and consult an engineer about putting them up. I also work with stone, carved stone. This piece is called Breakthrough because it was going to be one of 3 pieces, and someone was helping me in my studio to rearrange things, and he dropped it. And so after a few months, I thought I'll put it back together again, and I put the pieces together. So that's why I called it Breakthrough. And then about 6-8 years ago, or something like that, I wanted to capture some light and beauty. I mean, why not, right? And so I started to take some photographs, different things. These are some mountains in Mexico from a plane. This is a magnolia flower close up and a magnolia bud. And this is what I look like doing the menorah that's in the gallery. It's made of different pieces. And that is it. Thank you very much for coming. I'm honored that you're here.